Hey, what's happening, everybody? This is episode 318 of the F and Marks podcast. I'm Jay. Brainless One will be joining shortly. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and all those buttons. Make sure you share this out and comment. It just helps the algorithm, helps us and our podcast grow, so we could talk about our favorite sport that we all love to hate, professional wrestling. And there was quite a few things in the news this week. We had CM Punk making his big return to AEW television on AEW Collision Saturday. We'll talk about that. We'll get into Collision, get into the ratings, and what were your thoughts about Collision? So,
Yeah. What's up, Cousin Jay?
Hey, man. It's Friday. You know what that means? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
yeah.
for the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, welcome to episode 318.
We
went
Marks.
to Irish to now we're 318.
Yes. And we're 100 away from the brainless episode of the F and Marks podcast then.
Yeah, we're getting close to that.
Jay, I mean, what an interesting week we've had.
Yeah.
It's
been all over.
I mean, it started off what happened on SmackDown after we got off the show last week with the end with the Usos and Roman Reigns. Then we had the debut episode of Collision on Saturday. And then Monday, we had Raw. We find out Vince McMahon had a very, very big input on what happened on Monday Night Raw. NXT, we had Seth Rollins defend the World Heavyweight Championship against Braun Breaker. We had Dynamite on Wednesday. They did a lot more to kind of fill out the rest of the card for Forbidden Door this weekend.
Yep.
And here we are. Yeah. And you had mentioned Collision when I first was coming on, so let's start with that then.
Sure. I mean, so just a quick little flashpoint. Collision did very good numbers as far as ratings. It didn't quite get to the same level of what Dynamite does on a weekly basis. But if I'm remembering right, I think the number was 816,000 people tuned in for Collision, where last week on Dynamite, I think it was 832,000. So you're talking about a brand new property, something clearly they've been promoting up the wazoo for the last month. I'd say that's a damn good number. I mean, Rampage, on a good week was, closer to 400,000, 350,000.
Right.
So I'm sure Warner Brothers Discovery is more than satisfied with that number. But other than that, I mean, just the makeup of the show and what they did with the show, I thought it was a really good introduction.
I agree. I love the setup. The stage work was almost WWE-esque. I almost thought like I was watching WWE for a second, the way that they actually presented the show on Saturday. And then, to kick it off in Chicago with CM Punk with a live mic, the fact that he took the AEW logo off of the microphone before he spoke was a very nice touch. And then he said what he had to say, most notably the comment about he is the one true Bill.
One
Bill Phil in a world full of counterfeit bucks.
They're not supposed to talk about each other, but this was his way of getting it in without crossing the line.
Right.
Allegedly, the Bucks were fine with it and actually kind of played around with it, and I think they said, "Hey, if this was 2018, we'd make this into a T-shirt." So,
the people who have an issue with what Punk said, they're the same people, who kind of shied away when the Bucks and Kenny were mocking CM Punk in Chicago, right? The day that, Omega came out and said, oh, we're going to put this in the past. We don't need to talk about it anymore. Yeah, those are the same people who are upset about what he said about the Bucks.
Well, and, I'm just going to say overall, like, Punk had a very good promo, but to me, it was not much will ever touch his pipe bomb promo.
No.
But I've heard better promos from him. It was fine. It really was. It was really good. It just wasn't next level. It was a really good wrestling promo. I mean, clearly he hasn't lost his touch on the mic, but I'm like, and maybe it was just the whole idea of we haven't seen him in so long. The last time we saw him, he eviscerated everybody,
right,
and left no stone unturned. And here he considering the circumstances and what he could and couldn't say, he did fine. I hear Cousin Chris was there. He was not behind the scenes, but apparently he had a luxury box or what have you, and apparently was there on his own accord. I'm going to say that he was there on CM Punk's accord.
Probably.
I'm going to say Cousin Chris probably could not afford the luxury box on his own.
Probably not. I agree. It wasn't one of his better promos. He has cut better promos in the past. It did what it needed to do. It was a solid return promo. He had his AEW championship in the sack.
Like that and his repeated line, tell me when I'm telling lies.
Mm-hmm.
I like those two things. I thought those were great.
That and name dropping the executive for Warner Brothers, the one who called him One Bill Phil.
Right.
That I thought that was such a nice touch because it's like, yeah, you guys can cry all you want, but this guy means something. You guys are just a bunch of executive vice presidents for a wrestling company that nobody really realizes that you are EVPs. And this guy's a big-time exec who pays big money to see me come out there and make them money.
Well, I mean, if they keep up with the ratings similar to this, I mean, yeah, they're going to be, I mean, having two properties where, you're getting over 750,000 people a week, I'm sure they'll take that all the time.
And remember, I think it was last week we were talking about how they had mentioned that the Collision numbers, it was either last week or the week before, where they were talking about how the Collision numbers really didn't do well outside of Chicago. And, now Punk comes out, does what he does. They said the sales for Collision for this Saturday in Toronto skyrocketed because of CM Punk. A lot of people don't realize that, obviously, yes, it's Chicago and CM Punk's there. They're obviously going to show up. But these other towns, it's like, well, we don't know what to expect from Collision.
Right.
I admitted it. I wanted to see the show. I'm intrigued. And if anything, you got to admit that CM Punk is the draw that he still is. And
he is. And one thing I'm kind of excited to see here, CM Punk is in the Owen Hart Cup. Yes. And his first match is going to be this weekend.
Yes, it is.
For them. And I am looking forward to not only after he wins round one, because that puts forth possibility of going against Samoa Joe, but we'll have the possibility of him going against Powerhouse Hobbs or Ricky Starks in the final. So, I mean, there are a lot of intriguing possibilities. They may hold off on the Joe match. They may. Like, hey, we don't want to use it for the Owen Hart Cup. We want to use it for like a pay-per-view down the line type thing. And figure out a way to have Joe lose. And let me see. I've got it written down here somewhere. Seeing and I don't think they'll do this. I mean, Joe just got handed a new television title for Ring of Honor. I think it'd be bad if he lost, but I would not mind as a consolation prize Roderick Strong versus CM Punk either.
No, I wouldn't either. And I mean, and nothing against Powerhouse Hobbs. Obviously, I'd love to see Hobbs in the finals because I like to see them do something with him. Although he is now Tony Khan has now completely ruined I'd like to see Powerhouse Hobbs get kind of presented in a better thing because he put him with QT Marshall. But as a wrestling fan, I want to see CM Punk and Ricky Starks because that match is going to be fantastic. And I would actually strongly consider getting, I think All Out or All In's going to have the finals of the Owen Hart tournament.
I think that's right.
And, they're going to have, they have Forbidden Door where CM Punk's going to have his first match. So, yeah, I mean, with Punk, yeah. And I know that they were trying to get CM Punk versus Kenta in the GTS on a pole match. But obviously, Kenta was worried that if he had wrestled CM Punk that he was going to get hurt again. So he had to withdraw himself from that match. So now we get Punk versus Satoshi Kojima in the first round of the Owen Hart Cup.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, as far as setting up storylines going forward and them having the thing against Bullet Club Gold and what have you, all right, yeah, let's see it. And that's going to be what we're getting on Collision this week. I think they got, I think it's an 8-man tag that they're doing this week.
They are. It's the Bullet Club Gold teaming up with the Ass Boys to go up against CM Punk, FTR, and Ricky Starks.
Yeah.
And honestly, you could actually use that as like a, springing point to build up for Punk and Ricky Starks down the line. Well, they were just teamed up on Collision, to take out the Black and Gold and the Ass Boys. By the way, isn't it funny that the Gun Club has finally hit that same mark that Kurt Angle and, guys like that where they get the chance?
Yeah. Yes.
Because every time they wrestle, you hear them say, Ass Boys. I fucking love it. I love the fact that Danhausen got that over.
Yeah.
I also love the fact that when CM Punk came out on Dynamite this week, he was wearing a Danhausen shirt.
Yeah.
And I said, I have to do it too, because if CM Punk did it, I have to do it too.
Yeah. Well, outside of that, we had like the return of Miro this week.
Yep.
And other things that went on with Collision. Outside of the Punk stuff, what was the stuff that really caught your attention?
I really enjoyed Andrade and Buddy Murphy. That was a fantastic match.
So did Ric Flair.
Yes. Oh, I'm shocked. And I appreciate the fact that Buddy Murphy used his finish, or Rhea Ripley's finisher on Andrade, and Andrade ended the match on the figure 8. I thought that was a very nice kind of like pay homage to their significant others.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great match. It's a great match to really kick off the first show that you can have. I really wish it was the first match of the show, because the first match of the show, I'm pretending never happened.
Why is that, brainless one?
He didn't even make it 2 months. Are you kidding? My fault for having false optimism that Tony Khan was going to do something right with the TNT Championship, and not only just the TNT Championship, for Wardlow too. But no, we have to put the TNT title on Dino Man. All while Jungle Jim Jack Perry is wrestling against Sabata. Oh, I think it's Sabata, right? Sanada. I'm sorry.
Sonata.
He's fighting Sonata for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Sonata said, "Why is it Jungle Boy Luke Perry? Why don't I have a real opponent for Forbidden Door?" And the fact that Tony Khan came out in an interview and said that I picked Jungle Boy because he was the first person I thought of who deserved a shot at that opportunity. Did you do a line right before that question was asked? That's all I want to know. Because if you did, I know you would have thought of at least 7 or 8 different names that were not Jungle Boy Jack Perry.
And speaking of which, I'm wondering if he did a line before he decided that he might want to buy Bellator, and then when asked, he's like, "No, my family's not interested in buying Bellator." He probably legitimately forgets that he and yeah.
and then he tried to discredit, who was it, Ariel Helwani? Is that who it was who reported that? He tried to discredit him again after Helwani did the interview with Nick Khan, and Tony Khan's calling Ariel Helwani a fraud and he's not a real reporter. And like, bro, just let it go, man. I want to like you, but you are so far up your own ass because you're on coke that you sneeze and fart at the same time. I don't get it, because I want to like the guy. I've said it before. I think it's great that he's given us an alternative to WWE. If you look at AEW as an alternative, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Don't just, and I appreciate what he does. He pays for all hotel accommodations and airfare and all this stuff, and that's great. You take care of your wrestlers.
He doesn't, go on massive layoff like binges. He's run out. He's like, you know what? I signed a contract with this person. I'm gonna let the contract run out, and I'm gonna keep paying him.
Do you think there's a point where Shad's like, yeah, that's way too much money you're paying for your payroll? This guy's
I'm gonna fact that they just got over $1 billion for the next 4 or 5 years. Shad is probably like, you know what, son? Keep doing those lines.
It's funny, too, because before the show, I saw the video of the Jaguars clinching the division at the end of the season, and they showed Tony Khan jumping on Zay Jones like he's Claudio Castagnoli debuting at Forbidden Door last year. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, this dude is just, like, what's his dad think when he sees him? When he acts like that? Like, Tony Khan's acting, to Zay Jones like he's a 7-year-old child. So and again, I want to like the guy. But if you're going to be the financier and you want to be the owner, you can't be the booker. It just doesn't work that way. It could work if you did like maybe one show, but to add, Ring of Honor and Rampage, and now I'm sure he's meddling in Collision just like Vince meddles in the stuff in WWE with the soccer.
Vince has done a lot of shows for a little while, but like Vince built up to it. Where Tony Khan went from 0 to 10 shows in like a couple of years. Dude, he definitely doesn't have the infrastructure there to help him. He has a handful of, veterans that can help him keep the ship going, but he doesn't have like a league of veterans behind him doing this. I mean, heck, even one of the veterans this week on Collision, JR is old school. He was booked for Collision. He took a nasty fall. His eye looked really messed up. But I'm sure in his brain said, I have to make my booking, no matter what. And he just sounded off when he was on Collision. And then after Collision was like going, yeah, I'm going to take some time away to heal. And it's like, dude, you should have called your boss after you took the fall and said, I don't think I can make it. I'm in bad shape and I'm gonna do more damage to the show than good.
Right.
But I'm glad at least he parked the pride after. I mean, he waited until after the show, but he has finally parked the pride and taking time that he needs. It's like going, you are not a spring chicken anymore, JR. Like, take care of yourself.
You're getting close to that 50-year mark in professional wrestling. You want to get to that mark, JR. And honestly, that's one of those guys, too. If Tony Khan really needed somebody to turn to who knows how to work, I know it's not like the veteran leadership of the wrestlers that you would need, like you would have if you had an Undertaker in your locker room. But JR is somebody who has experience. He was charge of talent relations.
Talent relations.
Before getting ousted by frickin' John Laryngitis. But, I mean, I don't know what Tony's doing. But I do applaud JR for actually at least trying to gut it out. I really would have just called the dude and said, listen, I took the fall. I can't come in. But
I'm enjoying this comment right here from Chris Brown quite a bit. When Tony Khan acts like he's impersonating Donnie Trump Jr., he's not wrong. Yeah.
I'll say this. It was very nice to actually hear Kevin Kelly's voice for the first time because I had no idea he was still doing stuff outside of WWE after he got let go by WWE.
Yeah, I mean, he did Ring of Honor for a bit, and then he actually, I think it was like a year ago, less than a year ago, promoted his own show, his own wrestling show. So, I mean, he's been doing stuff in wrestling for most of that time, but he and Nigel worked great together.
Oh, yeah. They were good. They sounded off on Saturday, but it could have been just the fact that they were trying to scream over the Chicago fans. And I know how hard that's got to be.
But, I mean, he and Nigel know each other from, both their times in Ring of Honor. Sure, Nigel was more of a competitor at that time than he was I think towards the end of Nigel's run in Ring of Honor, I think he had done some announcing because that's when I think he had some injury issues and Nigel ended up signing with WWE to be a performer, and then they ended up finding out that he had hepatitis C, I think it was. Impact signed him anyway. And eventually, though, like Nigel, I think, ended up getting the I forget if it's a surgery or what have you, I think to get the hepatitis C fixed. So, he could go on living a normal life without dealing with all that garbage. And then by the time all that happened, like, he felt he wasn't physically able to do what he wanted to in the ring and achieve that goal that he actually had, which was to be a WWE superstar. And that was a thing, I think it was in the Daniel Bryan documentary where, like, he felt bad that Nigel McGuinness grew up a WWE fan and wanted nothing more than to do that. And Bryan was like, I just wanted to be good at my job, but ended up in WWE and ended up becoming a big star. I wish I could have given it to Nigel because this is what he wanted and it was stolen from him. But I'm glad Nigel's still out there and doing his thing. I was disappointed we did not get Cassius Ohno on Collision. I wanted to hear Nigel, start the show saying, hey, Chris Hero weighing in at close to 350 pounds. He's a near 400-pounder, Kevin. He weighs over 425 pounds, Kevin, in the course of a match. I wanted that more than anything, and that was I would say similar to WrestleMania 38 in WWE's bad booking with the Iron Sheik.
You know what's funny? Somebody had posted something like, what was the booking decision at WWE that they really dropped the ball on? And I said when they had the Iron Sheik show up at WrestleMania 17 and Bobby Heenan made the comment about him showing up at WrestleMania 38 and then they didn't have him show up at WrestleMania 38. Somebody told me he was there.
He just didn't end up, as part of the show. But, yeah.
But if the Iron Sheik's there, don't you think, especially over the course of a weekend, with a guy who is notorious for finding any and everybody in that crowd, can't find WWE Hall of Famer the Iron Sheik, so that even if it was Corey Graves, I know F. Mark's Hall of Famer El Jefe would have been upset about it. Even if it was Corey Graves saying, wow, I guess the Sheik made it to WrestleMania 38. That's all they had to do.
Right.
I would have been happy. It would have been better if he made his way into the actual ring, obviously, but, beggars can't be choosers.
Right.
But I saw that. When you mentioned that, I had to say something.
But, yeah, Dino Man winning the TNT title, I was like, I can't even get mad anymore. I'm just going to become disenfranchised, I guess, with the TNT title.
It's a Dino Man.
Because, I mean, it means about as much. Let's see. What do I have around here that's worthless? No, my pen is worth more than TNT title. The capo from my guitar is worth more than that. This candle is yeah, I think everything in this room is actually worth more than that. And that's the truth.
Our truth is worth more. What's up?
Truth. I can't wait till he comes back.
I can't either. It's going to be great. The fact that he even tweeted out at Roman Reigns and said, you know what? I'm going to come and help you, dog, basically. I'll be part of that bloodline with you. I want that. I want that more. If R-Truth shows up on SmackDown to help Roman Reigns in the bloodline, that's it. That's mark-out moment of the year. But honestly, as for the AEW 24/7 championship, I don't know how I feel about this whole pairing with Dino Man and Christian, because you would have thought that it was like when Santino celebrated when Beth Phoenix won the women's championship and he held up the championship. It was like when Duh won the briefcase for Carmella and he was, holding up the briefcase and all that stuff. That's what it felt like. It felt like Christian won the TNT title that Luchasaurus actually won. And I'm just like, come on, man. You got to do better than that with Christian. It's silly. And I don't know what the you know how we've always talked about like so-and-so shit in Vince McMahon's cereal? Is that what Wardlow did? Did he shit in Tony Khan's cocaine? Is that why he's getting booked the way he has?
I bet he stole a couple of bumps.
Jay, tell me who's been booked worse since last year's, what was it, All Out or Double or Nothing, than Wardlow?
Not QT Marshall.
Oh.
Marshall is near the bottom of the list there. I'd say the only one I could think of possibly is Brian Cage.
Brian Cage has a championship. He's part of, because you know how AEW is. They want to have more championships than WWE, so they have other promotions bring their titles up there. Brian Cage is like 1/3 of the Ring of Honor Trios champions with two guys whose names I couldn't tell you what they were, even if you gave me 50 guesses. And the manager who has no backstory, but everybody seems to kind of, go to him as their guidance. But yeah, Brian Cage even has had a better run than Wardlow. Hold on, maybe. No, even Dominic Mysterio's had a better run since then.
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe that's what Wardlow needs to do, Jay. Maybe Wardlow needs to do time like Dominic Mysterio did. He just has to go to prison for like a day and a half.
Yeah. I mean, people don't know what it's like on the inside.
No.
Hmm.
It's terrible. Look at what it did to Dominic Mysterio, who was only in there for 36 hours.
Right. So I don't know if she's part of Collision. Maybe she is. Maybe she isn't. But Amanda Huber, who had been signed on to AEW as kind of a goodwill ambassador, is now part of the production team. You know, she is the widow of Brody Lee. And it was big of Tony Khan after snorting a couple of lines to hire her, you know, after her husband passed away. And you know, has a standing contract with -1 when he turns 18 for him to become a superstar
Superstar.
in AEW. But I think it's cool that, you know, she is now part of the creative side of things. And hey, let's see what she could do.
I agree. I think it's great that he did that. Obviously, WWE wasn't going to do the same, you know. The only time I could think of that WWE ever did something like that was with Vicky Guerrero, and we know how that turned out. But I really am. I'm happy for her, and I'm happy that AEW is also making it an easy for her and giving her opportunities, even though her husband's gone.
Yeah. Uh, so they did announce, I think it was earlier today, the full roster for AEW Fight Forever. And still, my favorite part of this is that Cody Rhodes, who's been gone from the company for well over a year, is on the game. They also have an Easter egg, though, for Brock Lesnar, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Apparently, if you want to create certain people in the AEW game, like Roman Reigns and Becky Lynch, they have it set up where they have presets. So they have their presetted movesets in the create a wrestler thing, so that it's a lot easier for you to create certain people. And obviously, WWE has actually done that in the past too, as somebody who has purchased a game or two in their time. Jay, they have the exploding ring of death match in the game.
Is that going to make you get the game?
No, because if I go out there and I spend $70 on a video game, first of all, I would have to have my head examined if I would ever spend $70 on an AEW video game, especially if it wasn't autographed by like Sting. But the fact is, I would have to go out and buy a new video game system, and I really have gotten quite fond of my kidneys, so I really don't want to cough one of those up to get that. However,
Well, I mean,
if it were by chance, if the planets were to align perfectly and I were to get the system and the game, yes, I'm going to do 11 million exploding ring of death matches, and I'm putting Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in the ring every time and not having them move and just blow up every time.
I think that's great. I think it's a great way to channel your anger against them for how much of douche canoes that they seem to be.
Honestly, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I must have had a head injury or something before the show. I have less of an ire against Kenny Omega because it really does seem like Punk's trying to reach out and do the right thing. He wants to talk to these guys. He wants to apologize to them. You know, it's the legal people who are telling him not to do it. Kenny Omega doesn't seem like the type of person who's going to hold on to a grudge that long. I could see that he's actually the one that's trying to mend the fences so that they could all work together sometime down the road. But it's because of the fact that Nikki and Maddie have to do what Nikki and Maddie want to do, and that's throw a temper tantrum like a bunch of 6-year-old children. But as much as I can't stand Kenny Omega, and yes, he's still the worst thing that has ever happened to professional wrestling, considering the fact that professional wrestling has had Duke Droese, Nails, and Kazarni. Kenny Omega is still the worst thing that has ever happened to professional wrestling, but the Young Bucks are worse.
Yeah.
So I would put they would probably end up in the Ring of Exploding Death over Kenny probably a little bit more, just because Kenny I would see. There's got to be a way that you can have they had to have like those download packs like after you buy the game for like $5 and you get the download pack. And there's got to be one of them that you get like Ishii, Minoru Suzuki, and the fuck doll. Because I would, if I were to get the game in the system and I've already, severed ties with my left kidney, I would have to get the expansion pack where you get the fuck doll, because then I would just have Kenny wrestle the fuck doll and the fuck doll win every time.
I do think it's interesting, though, that for setting up like the move set with the Lesnar Easter egg, the move's called diverticulitis, which is the thing that like stopped Brock from basically continuing full time in MMA.
Oh, Jay, some of the presets they used to do on the old WWE games used to make me laugh. Because it would be like for the Smoking Guns as a tag team, it would be like Cowboy Up or some stupid shit like that. Or it would be like MVP, it would be like Most Valuable Player. And it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. You don't want to say MVP. So they had some really funky ones. I'm gonna have to look on the old games that I have, and I'm gonna have to pull out some of the best ones. Maybe that'll be my top 10 list at some point.
Yeah.
Top 10 terrible preset names for entrances and movesets in WWE video games. That's a mouthful. Ugh.
All right. Chris Brown saying another downloadable need for the game: the Fountain of Blood for any and all Moxley matches.
Well, to be fair, Chris Brown, that's the reason why the game took so long, because they had to put enough memory or gigabytes or whatever it is into the video game so they can have enough blood for Jon Moxley matches.
I heard they needed an extra terabyte of space for the blood, and that they actually made character Dracula to try to suck it up. But even so, it still was not enough.
I need to know if they're going to have an expansion pack, maybe with the fuck doll. Instead of doing the other three, they'll just do the fuck doll and Nick Gage for like $1, so that I could have a pizza slicer match between Jon Moxley and Nick Gage, and in the middle of the match, we go to picture-in-picture, and it's a Domino's commercial.
I think that would be great.
I would love to see that. That would be realistic. 12 out of 10, I'd go buy the game even if I didn't have the system. I'd make it work on my PS3.
Yeah.
I'll make it work on my Nintendo.
Good times.
Yeah.
All right, so you did mention theme songs. So one person who is rumored to be coming back at some point, one Randall Keith Orton. There's been rumors that maybe there's going to be a revamp to his iconic Voices theme song. And there was about, I think it was a minute-long clip uploaded of said theme song. What did you think of what they did?
I'll be honest, I have not heard the new version of the Randy Orton theme song. I apologize. I don't think I am ready to hear. Now, mind you, I, unlike Randy Orton, was a fan of his original theme song. And I hate to admit this, I initially did not like Voices as his theme song. Now it's like my top 5 favorite theme song in WWE ever. So the fact that I get revamping's a little bit different than them completely changing the song, but I haven't heard it yet.
think of it, Cousin Bobby, of like what they did with the Rock's theme song a lot of times, where it's like, it's not this major alteration where like it's unrecognizable. It's basically the song, like this one that they have, they kind of, I'll say the more guitars, kind of warbly a little bit, little heavier. Uh,
Okay.
but I will, Chris Brown, I will definitely send it to you so you can give a listen. Uh, I'm not gonna say it's like when they changed Nakamura's theme song and we were kind of like going, why are they changing this? This is like the greatest thing, and it's like they changed the greatest thing into greater than the greatest thing. Uh, but I was like going, okay, uh, I'm not upset by this. Like it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good.
I'll have to check it out after the show. I did not, I didn't want to. I wasn't ready for it.
Ugh.
I'm just hoping that means if they're revamping his song, that means he's coming back.
Right.
Because this whole thing, like, we're going to 1 week say he's not coming back, the next week he's retiring, next week he's returning, the following week he's retiring, and now they're revamping the song. So next week, are they going to say, oh, that wasn't supposed to go out, that was supposed to be just a special thing because he's retiring?
I doubt that, but there. I mean, there are a lot of people returning, and I don't feel like at this point Orton will be returning like ultra soon. They got plenty of people coming back to the roster. They don't need Orton at this moment. One of the people that returned, Bobby Lashley, last weekend at a live event, and ended up defeating Karrion Kross. Brock Lesnar has not been off TV for a long time, but the plan is to have him return on Monday Night Raw after Money in the Bank. And the belief is that Carlito is going to make his return to WWE July 7th on SmackDown. That's 2 weeks away. So, you're not going to bring all these other people back and then, like, kind of try to drown out the return of the Legend Killer, who has become a legend himself. So he may have to kill himself in character.
And it's funny you say that, because another name that is rumored to be on the verge of returning is one Bray Wyatt. Apparently, if it is the long-term COVID that they've been saying that it possibly could be, is the case, that makes sense. And we should be seeing the former Eater of Worlds returning to WWE, apparently to Monday Night Raw. And apparently, well, obviously we'll see when it happens, but apparently The Fiend is not coming back. He was very adamant about how he did not want to go back to the Fiend character. So we'll see, which means he's probably coming back as the Fiend. It's WWE.
Well, I mean, Triple H being mostly in charge at this point, maybe Reason will win. Maybe. We'll see, I guess.
Was that the worst match of the year so far?
I didn't hate the Mountain Dew Pitch Dark match. I'm just saying.
A lot of people are saying that was the worst match of the year. I mean, it's up there for me.
Let me talk at you.
And look at what happened with him since then. Everybody said that everybody who works with Bray Wyatt ends up looking like a pile of shit afterwards. And LA Knight went and wrestled in the belly of the beast and came out smelling like a rose.
Yeah.
He came out this week on Monday Night Raw when Logan Paul was announcing himself for Money in the Bank, and I really would like to have a discussion about that. But
All right, so before we get into that, Tim said, "Who does Bray feud with?"
well,
When
apparently he's if he's coming back to Raw, I think it's Cody Rhodes. I don't know why. I got this weird suspicion it's going to be Cody Rhodes. If it's SmackDown, he's feuding with Karrion Kross. Because you can't get any lower than where Kross is right now.
sad.
What do you think? Who do you think Bray comes back to the feud with when he returns?
I mean, part of me is like, my brain immediately is going to Seth Rollins. I mean, he had that Hell in the Cell match where Seth did not come out smelling like a rose. We'll put all the blame on that on Seth, or not Seth Rollins, but Vince McMahon for booking that crappy end.
Right.
Um, but honestly, he probably wouldn't go to the top right away. There's got to be somebody, below that he could work with, get some victories, maybe get some damn credibility back before it's like people are into the character, and whatever Bray is, the crowd's been into everything he's been.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been kind of, once he starts going, it kind of goes off the rails. They get all hyped about it. I mean, I always come back to the Wyatt family going against the Shield. They didn't even do anything.
Yep.
Was it 2013 or 2014 Royal Rumble?
I want to say it was 14.
And like, before they even touched, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Because that was, the Shield on one side, but they needed to have the foil that competed on the other side, and that was headed by Bray. And then Bray reinvented himself with the Fiend, and when he was fired, everybody's like, well, what in the Sam hell? If he's making the company money, even with an expensive contract, like, why are you firing this guy? And then when they re-signed him and they did the White Rabbit thing, got all this intrigue, and then you bring him back, everybody's like, going, all right, great to see him, cut some good promos in the ring, and then he doesn't have matches, and he just
talks
and doesn't go too many places, and then ends up against LA Knight.
Yeah.
And
let me talk to you.
Tim is saying that he thinks Bray and Austin Theory. I don't know. Like, if they want Bray to be a thing, he can't be losing when he comes back. And I think with Austin Theory, I think he might lose.
If he's coming back to Raw, I think I got the perfect, not wrestler, but faction.
Okay.
Spooky pals.
Hey, that wouldn't be bad. I mean, if he beat somebody like Finn, that's not the worst thing in the world.
They have history too.
Right.
And honestly, him and Priest would be a fun matchup. Him and Dom, are you kidding me? Could you imagine Dominic hiding behind Rhea as Bray Wyatt, whatever version of Bray Wyatt is standing in front of her? That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Chris Brown, 2014, he said, Royal Rumble.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
It sounded about right. That I still applaud. I don't remember where the 2014 Royal Rumble was, but man, that crowd was hot. That was a great crowd.
They didn't like Rey Mysterio for one night only.
The only night they did not like Rey Mysterio. I feel bad for Rey. I will always feel bad for Rey for the 2014 Royal Rumble. No, that can't be right. That wasn't the Royal Rumble then. Because the Royal Rumble was when Daniel Bryan didn't come out and he ended up main eventing WrestleMania 30. That was 2000. Yeah, he did. That was 2014 when the Wyatt family fought the Shield. That wasn't 2014, or that must not have been the Royal Rumble because Wyatt fought Daniel Bryan in the 2014 Royal Rumble, and he beat the shit out of Daniel Bryan. And if I remember correctly, he carried Daniel Bryan out of the ring. If I'm not mistaken, I know for a fact, I would bet on it. The reason why Daniel Bryan wasn't in the Royal Rumble because they booked him in a match against Bray Wyatt earlier in the card. And for whatever reason, WWE thought that he doesn't need to be in the Royal Rumble. He already had a high-profile match, and they didn't book him for it.
All right, Tim's saying, what about Edge versus Bray Wyatt? I think that'd be good.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's only a handful of opponents and rivalries that Edge can have before he hangs it all up. So if you think Bray can be a thing for you, a big thing, in the next 5 years, you should do everything you can to make him the biggest deal he can be, defeating a Hall of Famer, former world heavyweight champion. Yeah, that'd be a good notch in his belt.
He should have been the one that ended the Undertaker streak. I will defend that for the rest of my life. It either should have been CM Punk at 29. I know why they didn't do it at 29. I wouldn't have done it at 29 either. But it should have been Bray Wyatt at 31. That was his signature victory. The year after he got buried by Cena, he literally got buried by The Undertaker in 31.
Right.
So, like, this whole thing where they're like, oh, maybe he's doing the part-time shit where he's The Undertaker and just shows up whenever the fuck he wants. Yeah, that works when The Undertaker's undefeated at WrestleMania, and that's all that there really is for a man who has wrestled as long as he has. It's not going to work when the guy who you're trying to replace The Undertaker with, his only victory at WrestleMania was in a Firefly Funhouse where he covered and counted the 1, 2, 3 on Cena.
And I know you love that match.
I did. I enjoyed that match. Ooh, speaking of things I enjoyed, Cousin Jay, real quick. I got to watch I'm all caught up on Dark Side of the Ring.
I have not finished watching the Graham one, and I have not watched the Doink one. I can tell you, though, that the ratings for each episode, more like the Sonny and Chris Candido one did well. Magnum TA one didn't do as well, but it's the Doink one has been the highest rated one this season.
That's because
so
they're Doink the Clown.
Direction.
I'll say this. I'm not going to ruin anything. I had no knowledge of the Graham family, only that I knew that Dr. Jerry Graham was Vince McMahon's favorite wrestler. That's the only thing I knew about Dr. Jerry Graham. So the Graham one is fantastic. I thought it was really good. I agree, and I said this last week when I watched the first 2 episodes, where it just doesn't have the same appeal to it as the first few seasons of Dark Side of the Ring. It still tells a good story. It just doesn't have the same pizzazz to it, I guess. The people they're bringing on were fantastic. Mike Graham's daughter was very good in theirs. I'll say that. I'm not going to say anything else. And the only thing I'm going to say that's going to ruin the Doink the Clown episode is, Jay, I really don't think anybody, when they introduced him as Big Josh, said, with a couple of buddies. So I hate to be the one that has to break that to you, but I don't think they say that in the Doink one. They show a very, very, very quick clip of Big Josh, and he's got a couple of buddies. Nobody said it. And after that, I was like, nope.
That's a disappointment. It's a disappointment. Another thing that's a minor disappointment, but I understand TV-wise why you do it. Marty Jannetty is the season finale. With the fact that, like, the dude kind of sort of admitted to possibly murdering somebody who also possibly slept with his stepdaughter. Like, yeah, if your brand is Dark Side of the Ring, yeah, that, I mean, you want to talk about the Rushmore of Dark Side of the Ring. Marty Jannetty is it. That dude.
The ratings for the Marty Jannetty episode are going to be similar to, what was it, Saturday night's main event when Andre beat Hogan with the Hebner twins. There's two refs. He must have had the surgery.
Did he pay for the plastic surgery? I saw the $100 bills falling out of the back of. Oh, I mean, he was doing con coke. He was doing Trump Jr. coke. Like, the level of. He was doing Ultimate Warrior coke.
No.
He was doing coke. He was doing all of that simultaneously.
Wow.
Nobody outside of Hulk Hogan saw the $100 bills falling out of his pockets. Nobody.
Jay, that is impossible. We both know that he does not do Ultimate Warrior coke, because if he did Ultimate Warrior coke, he would have ran to the ring faster than he's ever ran to the ring in his entire life, and then he would have shook the ropes.
Yeah.
The planets in the universe align perfectly with Calgron, the Destroyer. I am the Ultimate Warrior. I think I got that pretty spot on, too.
Pretty good. So one thing I want to kind of circle back to is Bobby Lashley returning.
Okay.
He is one of the few main event level people Roman Reigns has not gone against. Bobby Lashley is a SmackDown superstar. Superstar. Is this Roman Reigns' opponent for SummerSlam? Or do you think it's Jey Uso?
Jay, that was beautiful on Friday. They had me going. I was like, that motherfucker is going to leave his brother. I don't even care that that Solo is also his brother. That's all Jimmy's got. He doesn't have Naomi dancing around with the glow sticks anymore. All he has is Jey Uso. And I really thought that Jey was going to side with Roman. And he was like, and you're out, but I'm out too. And he super kicked him. June 16th. That's right? Today's the 23rd, right?
Yeah.
June 16th, 2023. Heading into the clubhouse. That's my mark-out moment of the year. That's how good that was. They had me going. So they just keep doing and churning this thing. And what the hell's going to happen with Roman now? So I don't see how they can't go with Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. And it's nothing against Bobby Lashley. But we haven't really seen
Lashley off for later in the year if they want to, and build him up, again, like, he had the thing with him and Seth and Austin Theory, and, it wasn't that long ago where he held a heavyweight championship, and he was the U.S. champion, and, he never really had like a clean loss going with that. So, They've tried to maintain his badassery. He still is a badass. He still looks great. But he is, there aren't very many opponents out there left for Roman Reigns as far as people he hasn't already gone through that are on that level.
I have a question for you since you did mention this. Because I've noticed over the last few weeks that things have been, I don't know if interesting or different or whatever you want to call it. But I know that they've had some of the free agents like Baron Corbin and Mustafa Ali show up down in NXT and do their thing down there. And that's great. I think it's great that Baron Corbin's down there. He kind of needs to go somewhere to kind of, get a fresh start. And then if they bring him back to the main roster, maybe people will forget that Baron Corbin is, not good.
I hope they never forget, though, that he was a waiter at Olive Garden.
If he comes back as the lone wolf, then I'm on board. Let him go to NXT, get a refresher, and then come back. Maybe people will actually miss him. I actually do because I actually like Baron Corbin, so I tune into NXT to watch him. But, is it just me, or does it seem like people from both shows are just showing up whenever they want? I get that Seth Rollins is the world heavyweight champion, and Triple H even said it anytime, anywhere, any place, So obviously, if he wanted to go to NXT and defend the title, that's any place. If he wanted to go to SmackDown and defend it, that's any place. But I mean, LA Knight just LA Knight just randomly showing up on Raw to absolutely obliterate Logan Paul, which I still want to get into, please, at some point. I got a good one on that one. You have no idea. This is Nia Jax territory.
Yeah.
Yeah. But is it just me, or are they getting more lax with the whole brand split? Are we going to see more people just show up on whatever show, and then we're not going to have a brand split, and then pretty much every week is going to be, we're going to see Seth Rollins every Monday and Friday. We're going to see Roman Reigns every Monday or Friday, or whoever the Universal Champion is. And then guys who are complaining about not getting TV time are going to get even less TV time. And we're going to end up in the same funk that we had before they did the brand split. And then 3 years down the road, they have another draft.
I'm not sure exactly what they're doing as far as all that goes. I think Money in the Bank is one of those cross-promotional things. So I think that's probably why they're allowing a little bit more of this. And programming note, next week, the podcast will actually be on Saturday, which is actually the same day as Money in the Bank, and we will do the preview show on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the fact that the Money in the Bank is in England, we will probably have to do it early in the day on Saturday to be a preview show for the show.
Yes.
We'll be in the preview show because we're not going to be as high as Booker T or Donald Trump Jr. or Tony Khan.
Booker T, man, why you got to bring Booker T into this?
Well, Booker T is I think he's usually high on the hashish instead of on the cocaine. He loves the cocaine.
As somebody who has partaken in the substance of marijuana once or twice in his life, I can assure you that Booker T, especially when he does the pre-shows, partakes in the consumption of marijuanas. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely different high from Donald Trump Jr. and Tony Khan.
Michael P.S. Hayes.
Yeah. And Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior.
Roddy Piper.
And Iron Sheik.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Greg the Bunny.
I know I've already said his name, but Michael P.S. Hayes, because he does it so much that you have to say his name twice.
Yeah.
Terry Gordy. Although I would hate to be the guy to go after Terry Gordy.
So, another returning superstar. This week, was one Tommaso Ciampa. And, before he got injured, he had a thing going with The Miz. It was interesting what they were doing, and it's like, all right, where are you going? Let's flesh this all out. And unfortunately, he got injured, or like injuries that had already been there finally needed to be attended to. And so Ciampa went away for a bit, and when he came back, I guess to an extent, not to an extent, it does make sense that he had stuff with The Miz, and ended up having a match and going over against Mike Mizanin, and I don't know, it fell flat.
I can explain why it fell flat, because that's exactly how I felt when I watched it, because I was expecting Seth Rollins to come out and do the open challenge and everything, and then he gets his ass kicked. And by the way, what Finn Balor did to Seth Rollins on Monday was fantastic. That's how you build on to tell a freaking story when you're building for the World Heavyweight Championship at a premium live event. However, The Miz coming out and saying, you know what, I was going to challenge for the open challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship, and because I wasn't able to because Finn Balor attacked Seth Rollins, I'm going to issue it. I'm like, why? This is just lazy booking. To find out that Vince McMahon went in there and changed Seth Rollins' open challenge to him getting his ass kicked to Finn Balor was because...
He did not want Tommaso Ciampa to come back and lose a match, but the original booking decision was that it was going to be like kind of a non-finish.
Yep.
So if you want to make Tommaso Ciampa look like a star, you have him go against a heavyweight champion and not lose. The Miz lost to Snoop Dogg.
And Pat McAfee. Although there's nothing wrong with losing to Pat McAfee. The United States champion in WWE lost to McAfee.
Shane McMahon, before he tore his quad, McMahon style.
I laugh every time I think of it.
So, again, storyline-wise, I get what they were trying to do with that, but if you want Tommaso Ciampa to make a bigger impact, and he ain't no spring chicken, so if you have any hopes and dreams for him, you need to put him in launch position, and beating The Miz is not launch position. Now, having a competitive match against the heavyweight champion is. I love The Miz, just like I love Dolph Ziggler.
Yep.
But having him in a match with Dolph or Miz at this point is not launch pad position. No. That's like, hey, all right, we need this person to get a win.
Yeah. To find that out was just like my first thought when I saw that Ciampa was supposed to fight Seth Rollins in his return match. I was like, well, at least we know that Triple H is in charge of booking.
And then Vince said, "Hi, beer,
pal.
Hey, pal.
Hey, pal.
I'm gonna do some things.
Hey, pal. I know you're gonna defend the title, but you're really gonna defend it tomorrow against Braun Breaker. So we're gonna have Finn Balor hit you with 3 coup de grace on the outside of the ring. And he's gonna beat the shit out of you, pal."
And Chris Brown, the talk of reuniting DIY, I'm all fine with that. I think having quality tag teams would be a great asset to the company. And DIY knows what the hell they're doing in the ring. They work well together. Quite honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a bad DIY match, but many of them were against FTR. So
in the Alpha Academy, or not Alpha, American Alpha.
Right.
Never seen. If you want to see some really good tag team wrestling, go watch 2016, 2017 NXT, American Alpha, FTR, DIY. Any combination of those three tag teams going against each other, and it's fantastic wrestling, especially if FTR is involved.
Yeah.
But speaking of tag teams, this past Friday on SmackDown, we had a gauntlet match to determine the new number one contenders for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. And after Sheamus and Ridge Holland destroyed every other tag team, including squashing the Street Profits, which was kind of surprising, Pretty Deadly came into the match and won it. I'm not going to lie, I'm really excited for Pretty Deadly for this match. They are good. They might not be like the greatest character. Yes, boy, I like that. That's cool. But I don't dig the characters, but those guys can wrestle, man. I don't care. I want to see some good old-fashioned wrestling, and you know how much I love good tag team wrestling. And that is going to be a tag team clinic. And honestly, good for them, considering they just got drafted to SmackDown, and a month later they're already getting a shot at the tag team championships. We've been saying for years, the people down in NXT, when they get to the main roster, just don't exceed the expectations that they, claimed down in NXT. So that, now that Pretty Deadly, who is a former not only NXT UK Tag Team Champions, but also the NXT Tag Team Champions.
Yeah.
They're very capable of winning these tag team titles. And I think this is good to see a young tag team get an opportunity, like you said, against the champions. Because even if Pretty Deadly loses, if they have a good showing against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, Triple H isn't going to forget that.
Right. So, when we do Money in the Bank next week, they have officially labeled this thing between Roman, Solo, Jimmy, and Jay as the Bloodline Civil War.
Yep.
It made me watch a bit of Captain America Civil War, where it was basically half the Avengers against the other half of the Avengers. But clearly there's going to be some chemistry there because they're family. And Heyman was on McAfee's show this week and talked about, Heyman's always the master of, building up the people, but also talking down simultaneously, going, oh, yeah, this was bound to happen. You got these guys, they were able to take out the tribal chief, but it took two of them. And the thing is ever since they were children, Roman's always been able to take him out. So this isn't going to be any different. I enjoyed Heyman doing that on McAfee. And, Heyman, he doesn't he doesn't make predictions. He makes spoilers. So
I'm glad that you mentioned that Paul was on the McAfee show, because R-Truth actually tweeted at the Pat McAfee show, said that, he's looking for him and he loves McAfee, and he goes, Paul must really want me to throw him over the top rope.
Long-term storytelling right there.
We're gonna have to put him in the Hall of Fame. He's gonna have to go in the F and Marks Hall of Fame. I mean, come on, it's R-Truth. And as much as I steadfast about every other opinion I have, I steadfast just as much that the fact that the Summer of Punk in 2011 cost us the Summer of Truth in 2011. Because if Punk's contract never expired or was on the verge of expiring, R-Truth was going to be WWE champion, and you can't tell me otherwise.
Don't want me.
What's up? The summer of 2011 still brings one of the greatest things I've ever witnessed on Monday Night Raw. Happened no more than an hour away from where we are right now.
Gonna be a good truth.
I still believe that if Punk's contract did not end the way it did, or if they just let him walk, that R-Truth was going to win the WWE Championship.
All right. So, coming back to the bloodline, there are several family members involved in the wrestling industry. Do you believe that the bloodline civil war, as they've coined it, is going to bring out more of them come Money in the Bank? Because if they're, in my view, if they're going to pull a trigger on a storyline like that, it needs to start then.
I know that they're not like cousins, but one name that keeps getting thrown out the most is Tama Tonga, who I believe is Haku's son.
It might be, maybe.
He's either the Tonga kid's son or he is Haku's son. He's one of the two. And if he's Haku's son, you got to bring him in. Because if he's half the man his father is, he's a bad motherfucker. But he's a name that I keep hearing. Jacob Fatu is not showing up for appearances that he was scheduled for. Now, I don't remember the name, but Umaga's son is starting to make the rounds. You're starting to see all of these names floating out there a lot more than you have before. Jacob Fatu has been linked to WWE before. Obviously he has. His three brothers are there. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Because I thought the exact same thing when they said it was Civil War. I said, who else is going to be there? Is Rikishi going to be there? Obviously, Rikishi has to be there. You can't not have Rikishi there. I don't know. If it wasn't in the United Kingdom, I would say Afa and Sika would be great choices for that. They could still get a pop. I mean, if you wanted to bring out, like... I mean, is The Rock going to show up?
It is a big show in a stadium. You never know. If they went that direction for SummerSlam, although, I mean, it feels like, not that SummerSlam is, you know, nothing to sneeze at,
Right.
but it's not WrestleMania. Unless they were planning to have multiple matches between Roman and The Rock.
I mean, if you wanted to really plant the seed for the first match between Roman Reigns and The Rock, you could do it at SummerSlam. It also would depend on where they're doing SummerSlam this year. But if you think about it, if you think about the family, he is the biggest name in the family.
What Detroit, Michigan?
I mean, they're doing it at Ford Field, right?
Yeah. Now, if they were doing it in The Rock's home state of, current home state of Virginia, yeah. Whether they did it at UVA or if they did it here at the field at next to ODU, you know, if they did it at, I think what people consider the worst football field in the world, FedEx Field.
See, that's probably why they didn't do Forbidden Door at FedEx Field, because they know Kenta definitely would have gotten hurt.
Yes.
And Jeff Hardy would have done a freaking springboard off of the railing and the thing would have collapsed and they would have blamed it on Jeff Hardy.
Hey, well, speaking of Jeff Harvey was written off TV last week because why, brainless one?
Because he, like Jimmy Uso, can't go to Canada because he's got a thing called a DUI on his record. And why would Jeff Hardy have a DUI on his record, Cousin Jay?
I'm surprised. That dude. And I used to be like I'm still pulling for him, but I used to be one of the biggest Jeff Harvey fans.
I never saw the hype.
I always enjoyed him, and as I stated several months ago on the show, unless there is monetary reasons why you have to wrestle Jeff Harvey, Jeff Hardy, Willow, please retire. Please retire.
Take a page from your own entrance song. So you see the writing on the wall. You know, the same song that you were basically dancing to the ring as your brother was getting his ass kicked.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I never saw the hype, and now that I know that Jeff Hardy is the reason why we have 3 douchebags in a wrestling promotion calling themselves EVPs, it makes me hate Jeff Hardy even more.
It's
I
not
never
fault that he inspires people.
Victory Road 2011 is all I'm going to have to say to you. That is the Nails and El Gigante of Impact Wrestling for me.
That's being probably a little kind too.
That is being kind. Just like the match I watched, the 11 minutes of Kenny Omega and the 3 million fucking Canadian destroyers that somehow, some way, his Buckdoll delivered to him. But no, that was actually worse than Victory Road. I'm sorry. The Kenny and the Blow Up Doll was the worst match I've ever seen in my entire life. If there was a time in my life, if I can get the neuralizer from Men in Black, that would be the match I would erase from my memory.
None of Clash 13, but
of course not. Why would I ever eliminate any part of Clash 13? That is a treasure amongst itself. I enjoy that. And you know what, Jay? The best part about Clash 13 is the more you watch it, the better it gets.
Yes.
Like
a fine.
Because I'll be honest, the first few times we watched it, I was like, all right, yeah, let's see it. Now I'm just like, I can't wait to watch primetime Brian Lee leave the Z-Man hanging as he's flying off the top doing a reverse cross body. The Botswana Beast losing after only absorbing 1 blow of hit on a drop kick and losing on a drop kick.
I mean, it's tough. We were talking about Kenny. We were talking about the in general, talking about the Elite. All of them have contracts that are coming up towards the end of the year. And one thing that's interesting about it is they are not allowed to talk about their contractual status. The company, some have even signed agreements saying they cannot discuss this. Considering that their world heavyweight champion brings it up every week on television as part of his story, this must be killing them. And I enjoy that it's killing them, that they can't discuss their contractual status. Would you prefer if they just went away or went somewhere else? I know you want to see Kenny Omega versus Brock Lesnar in the worst way.
Mm-hmm. More so just the first time their paths cross in the locker rooms. Because I want to see, I just want to see, and I want to be there for it too. I would pay money for that. I would sell both of my kidneys to watch Kenny Omega cross paths with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar say whatever the fuck it is. Kenny go and cry to Triple H and say, yeah, you go tell Brock that you have a problem with what he said. So that Brock Lesnar turns him into a pretzel and kicks him all the way back to Japan. Wait, is this a pretzel?
Miss.
This isn't a pretzel. It's Kenny Omega.
All that being said, I don't foresee the Elite going anywhere else. Like earlier on, Chris Brown mentioned I think he said Dax Harwood said that he kind of sees the CM Punk situation possibly as a powder keg that's going to go off sooner rather than later. And then there's this story from Meltzer talking about how there was somebody very high up on the card who more or less left Dynamite in a bad mood. And the general feeling is at some point the CM Punk situation will blow up in AEW in Tony Khan's face. In my view, if the company wants to have, I think, better stability, let the contracts run out. Let them go somewhere else.
I just don't want them in WWE.
Except for Kenny.
I don't want any of them. Because there was even reports that Hangman Page's contract's coming up soon.
Yeah,
and Triple H and Vince McMahon are head over heels about the option of signing Hangman Page. I almost think that's almost a foregone conclusion. I really do think. I don't think Kenny and the Bucks would leave AEW, but Hangman Page would. I absolutely can see Hangman Page leaving. I can see Hangman Page leaving before I see MJF. How about that? And another name that's been floated around has been one Hook, whose contract is also going to be expiring soon. Triple H and Shawn Michaels both want Hook. And my favorite part about this is my favorite AEW announcer, Taz, wants his son to go to WWE.
So he could team with Dom Mysterio.
What does that mean? What would that mean to you? Saying you're either Tony Khan or somebody in AEW and the dad who works for your company says he'd rather have his son work in the competitor than to work here.
I mean, at this point, like, Hook had a lot of hype when he started out, and it just fizzled out. And I think Taz, as a father, thinks that Triple H, with his wrestling mind, would probably be able to figure out a better path forward for his son. That's what it tells me.
I could see that. This is running WWE wasn't anything spectacular. He was phenomenal in ECW.
Part of the problem was he got injured pretty quickly into his run and didn't get to his full potential. I mean, he was the first to beat Kurt Angle. You know, they made him have he had a big debut. But yeah, I mean, that certainly says a little bit of something. It's like going, this is the company who's putting food on your table right now, dude. And you're saying your son is better off in the other place.
I agree with what you said. I think it's probably he has more faith in Triple H doing the right thing. And obviously Hook is young enough, even if he went to NXT, He could still go to NXT, have a decent run there, and learn at the Performance Center. Maybe it's just more of an indictment on how good the Performance Center is in NXT, where they're getting all these future kids. Because I mean, look at some of them. We just saw it on Tuesday. Braun Breaker, who was just part of a class not more than 2 years ago. That kid is the future. If WWE, you know how they always talk about the 4 pillars of AEW, and it's the 4 douchebags that are in that match for the title. I'm sorry, the 3 douchebags and Darby Allin in that match. Braun Breaker's your first pillar in WWE. I hate to break it to y'all. And the second one, you really don't want to hear this, but it's Austin Theory. I got a theory. Y'all ain't gonna like that.
Mysterio.
I don't know if I'd put Dom there yet. Rhea Ripley's more of a pillar than Dom Mysterio.
So another possible future pillar who was signed a couple of years ago, made big splash in WWE, finally made another appearance on WWE TV, one Gable Steveson. Damon Kemp, his brother, challenged, I forget the dude's name at the moment, to a match. He challenged him to a Raw Underground match.
Eddie Thorpe.
Gable said, hey, if you want to train, to be able to take that guy on, I know all about him. Let me show you something. Yeah.
Yeah? Eddie Thorpe. The only reason I know that the dude's name is Eddie Thorpe was he has the most unique approach to walking to the ring every single time. He's dressed like, I don't even know what the fuck you want to call it. It's like Justin Hawk Bradshaw met the Ultimate Warrior, met Texas Tornado Kerry Von Erich. And the way he makes his way to the ring, and I'm like, oh my God, who the hell is this? This is Carl Fredericks from New Japan. I was like, this is what you guys did to Carl Fredericks? Tell me this is not what he was doing before. But that's the only reason I know who it is. It's Eddie Thorpe, because I'm like, good God. He's actually pretty good, though.
Right.
But I don't know, it's just weird when you see a guy make his way to the ring the way he does, because it's just the way he walks is just, you know me, it's all about presentation.
Sure.
So.
But Gable Steveson here showing up on NXT after all these weeks of him talking about, oh, yep, you'll see me sooner rather than later, and this, that, and the other thing. It also came out this week. It sounds like he is looking to have one final year of eligibility in college, because basically all the college athletes that were doing collegiate sports during the pandemic, that they more or less said, yeah, we'll give you an extra year because you didn't really get a chance to actually compete. So sounds like he wants to do that extra year, but also said that he kind of has to figure that out in conjunction with a possible WWE schedule. So maybe, just maybe, the things he was saying before when he said he's flourishing, maybe it's real.
We'll see, because I'm curious now that he appeared on NXT this week, and in the span of a month, we had him and the Cadaver Twins making appearances on NXT. I'll tell you, like, the best thing, I hate to say it, the best thing and the worst thing that ever happened to NXT was NXT 2.0. Because if they didn't do the NXT 2.0, they wouldn't have cut the excess baggage guys. And yes, I'm very upset that Adam Cole, baby, is no longer part of NXT, because he is the greatest NXT superstar of all time. And you can't argue that with me. Who?
Superstar.
And I know that El Jefe would argue with me and say Gargano.
It's because he's older than dirt, is Bobby Fish.
But, like, they got rid of the excess people they didn't need in NXT anymore. They brought in a new batch of guys. Braun Breaker, the Creed brothers, and Carmelo Hayes really just kind of became leaps and bounds better than what they could have imagined. But
Wagner.
Please. Somehow they cut some kind of video package from, and I didn't see it, didn't want to. I don't need to see Von Wagner on my television. The fact that they're saying this guy is a future WWE WrestleMania main eventer is the most embarrassing thing ever. Let's be serious. The only way Von Wagner is main eventing a WrestleMania is when they finally do an 8-night version of WrestleMania, and he main events like night 2 of an 8-day series where he's going up against somebody that nobody cares about and nobody's going to watch. Like he's gonna fight Robert Stone or somebody stupid like that. Because that's what we got to do. But but it's great because now they have some other people down there that they're bringing in. They brought in guys like Carl Fredericks from New Japan. And they've brought in Joe Gacy, who was a stand-alone veteran in the Indies for a long time. It's not like they're just bringing in these guys. And I can't believe I just said Joe Gacy and gave him the time of day on this podcast. But they have a good mix of future talent and talent of, guys now that they can kind of fine-tune down there and then send off to the main roster very soon. But Braun Breaker's ready. I'm going to tell you right now, Braun Breaker's ready. I've seen enough of his heel turn to be he's just as good of a heel, if not better of a heel, than his uncle. He's not a better mathematician than his uncle, but Braun Breaker is definitely, he's there. He doesn't need to be in NXT anymore.
Do you think somebody like Karrion Kross would benefit from being back in NXT, or should they just cut bait with him?
If they're doing these apparent, roster cuts in the next, couple weeks because they said it was going to happen in July, I'd rather see him in NXT. I'm not going to say I want to see him get cut. I could tell you, I feel like I'm either Dwight Schrute or Ron Swanson, and I could just go in there and be like, look, this is who you got to cut from the roster, and this is where you save your money. Have a nice day. Sir, the list just says Dana Brooke and Von Wagner, and I said, have a nice day.
Good day, sir.
Good day, sir.
All right. What else do you have on your list, Brainless One?
Well, one thing I wanted to mention, LA Knight, yeah?
Yeah?
He did an interview this week, and he had mentioned, because people had been wondering why would WWE take what they had down in NXT, which was working, completely change it, and instead of having him be a wrestler, let's make this guy a manager. And not just any manager, the manager of the manager of Maximum Male Models. And he said it. He said that the reason that they were concerned about me is because I'm 40 and they wanted to bring me in as a manager because of my age. 40.
40's the new 30.
Like hell it is. Now that I'm there, no, the hell it is. I'll tell you the biggest difference between 30 and 40 is everything hurts more. A lot more often.
Right. I'll just say it's longer to recover.
And it's funny, too, because what I thought was interesting was, Edge was just in the world title match a couple years ago. He was 47. AJ Styles is 45, still gets title matches. Bobby Lashley was getting title matches in his mid-40s. Randy Orton, when he comes back, most certainly will be getting title matches. Brock Lesnar, hold on, Jay. Okay. I think we've come to the point in life that whenever Brock Lesnar gets mentioned, and it's not just even wrestling, it's just in any scenario in life, that Brock Lesnar is the alpha male of our species, so obviously Brock Lesnar could do whatever the fuck he wants because he's Brock Lesnar. Cornette says the dude has no problem giving himself color before matches because he's got that giant cow head that he bashes against the pole to get him to bleed. He goes, he doesn't get concussions. His skull is too thick. And I believe him. I would not. He would be the last person I would want to get a headbutt from. But the point is, Jay, is that people in their 40s are getting these opportunities. They're winning championships.
Yeah.
It's because it's because the dude made a name for himself outside of WWE, and Vince McMahon didn't want him to get over on his own merit.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like it's a shame. But if you think about it, because I saw the clip this week too. They showed the clip of LA Knight when he returned as LA Knight after being no more Max Dupree and associating himself with Dead Inside Monsef or Monsois or whatever it was. Monsois, that was it. And Marseille. And him now, like on Monday, like when he first came out, he got a light reaction. Oh, no, tell me who got a bigger ovation than him on Monday other than Cody Rhodes.
Let me talk to you. Yeah?
Let me ask you this, since we're on the topic of LA Knight. If he does not win next Saturday, what is that crowd going to do?
I'm gonna say it's not gonna be Rey Mysterio at 2014 Royal Rumble level.
Oh.
But they're gonna be upset.
Is it going to be Seth Rollins blasting Roman Reigns with a steel chair mat to end the Shield?
I think so. Okay. There has been enough swell of support for LA Knight. We all know he deserves better. And I hope the stupidness that protruded out of Vince McMahon on Monday that ruined the return of Tommaso Ciampa to be like a star-making, star-remembering return and turning it into, oh, he beat the guy who lost to Snoop Dogg at WrestleMania and lost to, would have lost to Shane McMahon and lost to Pat McAfee.
NFL punter.
WrestleMania losses in one day or in WrestleMania weekend history. Oh, yeah, he beat that guy. Yeah, he had a storyline against him, but, like, they could have made Ciampa into something.
If they're really adamant about the DIY thing, then I understand why they pulled the plug, so it makes sense. But I do agree. It would have done more for Ciampa going forward if he had not lost to the world champion and looked really competitive in that match in his return.
Yeah. So hopefully Vince McMahon does not get too heavily involved and lets the fans, for one of the few times in the last, couple decades, choose. They have chosen LA Knight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. Let me talk to you.
Yeah.
It brings me to the point that I really just wanted to get off my chest.
Yeah.
So this past Monday on Raw, they have Logan Paul come out and, even Ray Charles could have seen that Logan Paul was going to announce himself for Money in the Bank. Fine. If that's the route you want to go, fine. Just put Logan Paul in the match because it's fine. However, my issue is, and I have two of them. Number one, how are you going to have qualifying matches for every single other person in this match and then just give Logan Paul, who's not even a full-time wrestler, a free pass into the Money in the Bank?
Well, I mean, we announced ourselves last week, so we're in too.
Oh, Jay, I'm not going to win that match, so I'm going to denounce myself from the match because there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to climb a ladder, and the fact that I'm not. There's no way in hell I'm getting in the ring with Pete Dunne.
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna. LA Knight's gonna be my proxy. Yeah.
But my other issue is, you've just sat here after you rambled on about how this championship that you just created, the World Heavyweight Championship, is going to be defended anytime, any place, anywhere by a guy who's going to be here all the time, which is to counteract the fact that Roman Reigns is never around as your WWE Undisputed Universal Champion, who, oh, by the way, now has 3 belts. So your idea is to bring in a guy who's already part-time, have him win Money in the Bank, and obviously storyline-wise, because he is amazingly one of the few people in WWE who's had matches in the past with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins where you could just pick up at any point and he can cash in on either one of them, and it makes sense. But he's a part-timer who didn't have a qualifying match to get into Money in the Bank. What kind of freaking Vince Russo-ass bullshit booking is this? What is this? This is WCW booking. This is Judy Bagwell on a forklift match booking. Is he somehow employed as Vic Venom again? And he's just working in creative? He only deals with like Bruce Pritchard? Why? I don't get it. I get the fact that the kid is a freaking internet sensation and makes TikTok videos for 14-year-old girls. Yeah. If he's in this match, they give him all right, you have a match. You have to have a qualifying match. You need to earn your right into this match, Logan Paul. I have less of a gripe. I could oversee the fact that he's a part-timer doing it. Maybe this means he's going to be a full-timer more so. Maybe we'll see more of Logan Paul. Is that really a good thing? Do you think people really want to see Logan Paul more every week? Logan Paul going all over the earth wearing the WWE World Heavyweight Championship around his waist? The scumbag who walked through the suicide jungle or whatever the fuck it was, suicide forest in Japan, and did what he did, that low-life scumbag piece of shit, Logan Paul, kayfabe-wise, doesn't get a qualifying match, reality-wise, is not a full-time wrestler, and really is a piece of shit. Just going to walk into the Money in the Bank. 6 guys who have never won the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE title in their lives are getting a chance and an opportunity, a chance for you to build a bigger star, and you put this fucking shithead in the match. I'd rather see Alex Rodriguez in this match. I'd rather see Brett Hall. No, I wouldn't. Who am I kidding? I would never want to see Brett Hall. And the offset chance he's actually watching this.
Gloria. Oh wait, other guy.
Yeah. That's the GOAT, Brett Hall.
Yeah.
But in fact, Cousin Jay, since we are on the subject of the Logan Pauls, I even came up with a list. Because ever since he announced himself for this match, he has now taken over LA Knight as the favorite to win, and that makes me sick. To the point where I, the brainless one, have concocted a list, a top 10 list, you would say. The top 10 people I'd rather see win Money in the Bank over Logan Paul.
Yeah.
Number 10, Kazarni.
Kazarni is popular on your list.
It's easy to put him on there because it's just funny to say Kazarni. He's been on more of my list than he's had wrestling matches in his WWE career.
True.
And that's not saying much. He could have just been on 3 of my lists and it'd be accurate. Number 9, the Ryback.
Wow.
If that's a wow. Number 8, the corpse of Chris Benoit.
A similar note, Chris Brown said Mae Young's corpse.
Oh, number 7, speaking of corpses, Duke the Dumpster Droese. I mean, Jay, come on. He looked really good in that wrestling match that you sent me that clip of that I've now watched more times than I care to admit that I've actually watched.
Not James Ellsworth, Braun Strowman.
No, it's not that or Parties Over Grandpa, but, I mean, it's up there. But, yes, Duke the Dumpster Droese is 7th. Number 6, Dominic Mysterio. Number 5, Rick Boogs. Yeah, because I'd want to see Rick Boogs, win Money in the Bank.
100.
I mean, I'm surprised he didn't win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal this year. Let's be serious. Number 4, I know Jeff's going to disagree with this because he would say number 1. Number 4, Roman Reigns. Because why have just 3 championships when you can add a 4th one? I really hope that if they do that, if they did Roman instead of Logan Paul, I'll die. That would be the greatest thing ever. There's part of me that wants to see Roman Reigns actually win. And number 3, effing Mark's Hall of Famer, Curtis Axel.
Yes.
Number 2, Slapjack.
I hope the big cat's on this list.
I'm sorry, Cousin Jay. I had to make this very serious. And the one person I'd rather see win Money in the Bank over Logan Paul. You know him. If you ain't talking about LA Knight, you ain't talking, baby. Yeah. LA Knight. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's who I want to see win that. And if they bring in Logan Paul and ruin this for LA Knight, I'm going to be pissed. And I can tell you right now, wherever part of England that they're doing this show, because I forget where they're actually doing it, because I know it's not where they were last year for the Clash at the Castle. I think they're at the O2, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they're in the stadium.
They're in the stadium.
They're in the stadium. I don't think they're in Wembley Stadium, but they're in LA Knight. You were right. Chris Brown said O2 Arena.
Wow.
O2 Arena fits about 20,000-ish. So
that's pretty good crowd, though.
Rey Mysterio.
He beat Rey Mysterio?
He beat Rey Mysterio. And next up is John Cena, and then Sheamus.
John Cena. He's there? Is that
John Cena?
John Cena.
And Sheamus.
And Sheamus. Yes.
Because it was, I think it was Santino who called him like Rey Mysterio.
John Cena. He talks about that video, and he's like, that was kind of just an error, and it kind of came out that way, and it kind of took off the way it did, so.
John Cena.
John Cena. I think that the crowd at the O2 is going to turn on Logan Paul, and they might do to him what the people at the Hammerstein Ballroom were going to do to John Cena if he had beaten Rob Van Dam at John Cena at One Night Stand 2006, the night I thought Terry Funk was going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But,
all right.
But we'll see where they go with that.
All right, Brainless One. Do you have any other notes you want to get to?
I mean, are we doing the predictions for
this
weekend?
We'll do Forbidden Door.
The only other thing I have on here, other than the Forbidden Door, is Sting and Jericho. 2 guys who have been working together and in this industry for a very long time. who have never faced each other, are finally facing off in a 6-man tag match, or as the AEW the diehards would say, trios matches. So we're getting a 6-man tag match with Sting and Jericho, and it's Jericho, it's Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki going up against Sting, Darby Allin, and a partner of their choosing. I love the fact that they kind of had that little face-to-face last week where they both held the bat to each other, and then they had the little interaction, and it was great to see Sting and Jericho finally like interacting in a wrestling ring and everything.
Right.
And they were talking about it, and they were like, you two could get any tag team partner you want, and Sting goes, "Oh, we got a tag team partner." And he's like, "Who do you got?" And Jay, I've said it before, and I'm going to continue to say it. Chris Jericho was the GOAT of GOATs, who's GOAT of more than GOATs and ever GOATed in the history of GOATdom. Sting goes and whispers in Chris Jericho's ear, and he goes, "You shut your mouth," when Sting told him his opponent, because Sting told him it was somebody from Jericho's past that has beef with him. And honest to goodness, that was going to be my list of 10, but after I got to 42, I said I can't have it on my list.
I mean, with that, you could put Eddie Kingston there.
You can put anybody.
Bro.
I got a problem with you, partner.
I mean, part of me, as much as he announced his retirement, was like going, it should be the Great Muta.
That was the first name that came to my mind, especially because it's Forbidden Door.
Right. Well,
what if it's Goldberg?
Tomorrow.
What if it's Goldberg?
That would be very, very interesting.
Because, honest to goodness, I would have even been as hung up on it if it wasn't for the fact that Chris Jericho reacted the way he did.
Tim has a good pick out there. I'm not sure if he's healthy, but NATO. Because they do have... Yeah, let me talk at you.
Because NATO is really one of the few that hasn't... I mean, obviously, they've only done 2 of these things now. But NATO wasn't at the first one either, so I
know, he's been dealing with injury. I know that much.
You know what they should do? They should not announce who the partner is, and they don't know who it is. And then before the show, they introduce like AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura in the crowd watching a Forbidden Door because they want to watch Okada versus Bryan Danielson. And then Sting and Darby Allin could just run around the audience going, "We need to find a partner," and even show them walking by Nakamura and AJ Styles as they're looking for a partner, and then before they pick like Ref Aubrey.
Well, I was gonna say, what if they're like going, "Wait, didn't this guy win like a championship in another organization and they picked Nicholas?"
Yes. I laugh about that Okada was in the crowd and they walked right by him and picked 11-year-old Nicholas. No. Why should we pick Okada or Tanahashi when we could pick Nicholas?
Nicholas.
But yeah, that's all the notes I have. I'm just curious who they're going to book for the tag team partner.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, Muta was the name that came to me immediately, but NATO isn't bad.
Yeah, that's a good one too. You got anything else in your notes there, Cousin Jay?
I mean, most of the things are pretty small things. Moose resigns with Impact. That was the thing we brought up a couple weeks ago. Good for Moose. I mean, I think he's in a place that's good for him. AEW's Rush welcomes a baby daughter. Good for him and his significant other. And I just have to say, I had a great I was sports entertained by the Briscoe and Jarrett match, concession stand brawl.
You and I
I'm
have
not mom about it being a scientific masterpiece, but
differentiating opinions on what they've been doing with Mark Briscoe. Just because it worked in Memphis in the 70s and 80s doesn't mean it's going to work on AEW in 2023.
yeah.
Yeah?
So that's that.
All right, so let's get into some predictions.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start with the International Championship match. It's a fatal four-way because why not? Orange Cassidy seems to win these things anyway. Orange Cassidy, Shibata, who happens to be the Ring of Honor Pure Champion, Zack Sabre Jr., who happens to be the IWGP Television or Intercontinental or Pure. He's one of their champions.
One of them.
And the man of 1,000 faces, Daniel Garcia. Who do you got? Jay Stradamus? You should have the little the Swami thing like Johnny what was it Johnny Carson had?
Right.
When you're doing your picks.
You know, Orange Cassidy keeps on surviving all these things, but part of me thinks that, to make this feel like it means a little bit more than like we're going to have these fun matches, but there's never going to be anything of consequence that truly happens. Mm-hmm. I feel like they have to have a title change here where somebody that would be a New Japan person wins this title, and then, maybe later on in the year, we end up getting, somebody from AEW who goes to New Japan to win the thing back, or that person who wins the title ends up coming back to AEW. I get the feeling that maybe, just maybe, Zack Sabre Jr. is going to win this match. Again, just for the idea that maybe there are it's not just a fun night. People will win titles even though they're in the other company. And WCW back in the 90s would do this, where they would have their tours of Japan. The Steiner brothers ended up winning like the tag team titles. There was a point where Ric Flair and Tatsumi Fujinami, had like a series of matches where like Flair would lose and then Fujinami would win. So I would want to see something like that. And I think this match presents, the best opportunity for that. So I'm going to go Zack Sabre Jr.
Okay. I hate to say this as much as I want to pick Orange Cassidy, just because I keep thinking I've been gloom and doom pretty much ever since about, what was the last one they just did? Double or Nothing? That he's just going to drop the belt. Yeah. And I, honest to goodness, I really thought he was going to drop it to Swerve. And now it's like, all right, now he's got a fatal four. I got a weird feeling it's going to be Daniel Garcia.
I can see that.
So I'm going to go with Daniel Garcia. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be Daniel Garcia.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about the match we were talking about before this. Y2J, Minoru Suzuki, and the guy who gets his face punched more than anybody else in AEW, going up against the GOAT and Darby Allin in a mystery partner.
I'm going to go with Sting, Darby, and mystery partner.
Do you want to take a guess of who the partner is going to be?
I'll go with Goldberg.
Okay.
I'll say Goldberg.
Okay. I'm not going to count this whether we get this right or wrong towards our records for Goldberg or whoever our prediction is. I'm going to go with Juventud Guerrero.
Okay.
But I would not be surprised if it was Goldberg. I'm just trying to be different with Juventud. But I agree. I also think Sting and Darby Allin and their mystery partner are going to beat Jericho and the Suzuki Connection. All right. We have, why the fuck not, the Blackpool Combat Club, Shota Umino, and Take a Shit going up against the team now referred to as the Hung Bucks, Hangman Page and the Bucks, Eddie Kingston, what a surprise that is, and Ishii, the walking baked potato. I really, honest to goodness, if I could recuse myself from even saying anything about this match, I really would, because I really can. This is not the pinnacle and the peak of professional wrestling. I do not need to see the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite wrestle again. I don't need that in my life.
Well, I know one person that you do pull for, and I'm pulling for them, and I'm going with the Hung Bucks and Eddie Kingston.
And
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to see. I think Eddie Kingston, in part, needs to get one over on Claudio Castagnoli here. I got a problem with you.
You know what, Jay? I was actually going to take the Blackpool Combat Club and Shota Umino and Take a Shit, because I think this would be a good opportunity for them to kind of give Take a Shit a really good moment in his career. And why not do it at Forbidden Door, where he could pin like Matt Jackson or something. But I like the idea of Eddie Kingston getting one over on Claudio to kind of build for them to have a Ring of Honor World title match. So I'm actually going to go with them. That and the fact that, okay, the other prediction we have to make for that match, how far into this match before Moxley starts bleeding? I'm going 12 seconds. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Well, since we don't know if he's going to start the match, I mean, that definitely puts an added layer into this. I'm going to go 7 minutes and 7 seconds.
All right, Jay's going 7 minutes, 7 seconds, and the brainless one is going 12 seconds. Talk about Price is Right. All right. Toni Storm, the AEW Women's Champion, versus Willow Nightingale. Willow Nightingale, who is the IWGP Women's Openweight Champion.
So with this, New Japan does not have a women's division, but they have like they're associated with, I think it's Stardom, and
Yes.
that's the one where Mercedes Moné recently was their champion and is no longer their champion. But in the interim, and this is similar to what they did last year, they just took two AEW superstars and had them have a match. But it sounds like in the future, when they do more Forbidden Door events, that we will have the crossing of talent from different things. All that being said, it's not the time to take the title off Toni Storm. Toni Storm is winning this match.
It's funny, too, because last year Toni Storm represented Stardom in her match against, who the hell was it last year? Was it Britt Baker? Was Britt the champion last year?
I don't remember. All right. Throwing out their mystery partner in the Sting Darby match is Ibushi. That's not a bad choice. Like, not bad at all. And Chris Brown saying 5 minutes and 45 seconds for Moxley to bleed. Anyway, yeah.
I really do hope it's the first person that we both thought. I really hope. Because if it's Muta, that's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because he really was. When Chris Jericho was like, "You shut your mouth," I'm like, he said Muda.
Mm.
Or he said Goldberg.
Right.
But he didn't say in the Owen Hart Memorial Cup tournament, he said it was going to be CM Punk and Satoshi Kojima.
Yeah. Let me talk to you. Yeah. Stone Cold Lead Pipe Lock of the weekend. CM Punk is winning this match.
I agree. Stone Cold Lead Pipe Lock. Stone Cold CM Punk is winning this match. Woo! Alrighty. How about for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship? I definitely wrote this too, because of course, it's going to be Sonata defending his championship against Luke Perry.
This is not too far from that other Stone Cold Lead Pipe Lock. Sonata is winning.
Sonata wins, and Luke Perry gives the worst heel turn in the history of mankind. By the way, they said that one idea they've pitched, if they do turn, because there's a lot of speculation that they're going to turn Jungle Boy heel at this show, that they want him to play a James Dean-esque character in his wrestling career.
You're tearing me apart.
You know, I may have seen an episode of Beverly Hills 90210 in my life.
And seen the hairstyle his dad had.
Yeah, no. I mean, Dylan McKay was not a James Dean knockoff or anything.
Will they have him straighten his hair? And like, is it going to be like Ricky Morton becoming Richard Morton in the York Foundation?
He's going to wear
a
ponytail?
Right.
Oh. That was so awkward. Everything they did with that, with the York Foundation, was just so awkward. Seeing Richard Morton like that and Terrence Taylor. I mean, granted, Terrence Taylor was leaps and bounds better than anything he did as a Red Rooster, but still. I always feel bad for Terry Taylor, even though he is kind of a douchebag.
Right.
Speaking of douchebags, MJF defends the AEW World Championship against Hiroshi Tanahashi.
MJF wins this thing. And as much as people will kind of talk down as if the MJF can't go in the ring, every time that dude is in the ring, you're like going, that's one of the best matches I've seen. It's time to end that talk. He's going to have another awesome match here. It may be a match of the night candidate, although it might not come in ahead of Danielson and Okada. Maybe. And for as much shit as we give him, Twinkle Toes and Osprey is going to be enjoyable. So
I'm going to say, for argument's sake, I'm going to say MJF over Tanahashi. But because I want chaos, MJF no-shows Forbidden Door.
Okay.
But if I have to pick somebody to actually win, it's going to be MJF. If they actually have a wrestling match. But I could see him no-showing Forbidden Door. I don't know why. I got this weird feeling he's going to do it. And it's going to set up for him and Punk to fight finally for the title.
Right. And he still has issue with Adam Cole, baby.
Who is now his tag team partner because they did that tag team turmoil thing where they picked two random people and put on the tag team.
I mean, WCW did Battle Bowl back in the day where they would,
I love that concept.
Had the Lethal Lottery.
I love that.
When they did Abdullah the Butcher and Cactus Jack, one of the greatest things ever. Where's my partner? Because back then, Cactus Jack was known for beating up his partners if they didn't perform. Because he was a freak.
They made fun of me because I was a freak. All right, now that we've gotten the stupid breathing out of the way, now we can talk about Kenny Omega. got Kenny Omega versus Will Ostrich.
Yeah.
Can I recuse myself from this, please?
No. Now, could they turn this into a triple threat with the blow-up doll?
I still wouldn't pay $50 to watch it.
I think it's only $19. I could be wrong. That might be like you might have to have a subscription to get the $19 thing.
I'll look into that. I think that's a lot easier to sell than 50.
I think it's like through the Fight TV app.
Ooh, I think I have an account with them.
So there's that. I think I want to go with Osprey here. I don't like, quite honestly, this is one of those ones where I think I'd give a coin flip of who I think will win, and I'm just going based off the fact that Twinkle Toes won last time.
I know it's for the IWGP United States Championship, but I got to go with Osprey. You can't put a gun to my head and get me to take Kenny Omega. And finally, in the main event, and I can't wait, this match is going to be amazeballs. Daniel Bryanson versus the Rainmaker Go Okada. Who do you got?
I think I got to go with Okada here. Like, this thing could be match of the year candidate, and it'll be like one of multiple matches now where Bryanson Daniel, has another one to notch on his belt. He's getting up there in age, isn't wrestling as much because he's a little banged up at this point, but he is going to pull out all the stops just like Drew McIntyre did at WrestleMania in the triple threat match. Injured, but says, you know what? I'm good enough to go. Let me go. And he's going to go out there and put on a show with Okada. They may steal the show because he's a go.
Spoiler alert, they're probably going to have match of the year.
Yeah?
Yeah? I agree with you. It makes too much sense. I need to see Okada beat the American Dragon. And it's not a shot at Bryan Danielson. It's Okada, man. Not a good look if he's 0-2 at these shows. So, wait, did he win last year? He was in that fatal
last year's show.
He was in a fatal four-way with Hangman Page, Adam. Oh no, he lost.
Adam Cole got hurt.
Yeah, he lost that one because Jay White was champion and won the title at that match. Oh, you can't have Okada go 0-2.
Would that be considered 0-2? He didn't win, but he didn't get pinned.
I mean, that would be 0-1-1.
Right.
And then if he wins 9 in a row, he'd be 9-1-1.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to go with Okada.
Okay.
All right. I think that's is that all the notes and predictions?
Yeah, I think so.
Does that mean that the only thing that's left is the good, the bad, and the brainless?
I think so.
All right, Cousin Jay, what do you got for your good this week?
I'm just going to go with AEW Collision. You put on this new show. Tony Khan has 20 different shows in 50 different professional leagues that he's trying to manage simultaneously. You think the cocaine would run dry. You think that everything would fall apart. You think there would be 5 QTV segments, 37 new factions, and just a whole bunch of mishmash of bullcrap going on. But they put on a really good show. Fans turned out for it in person and watching on the television. and that's good for us and that good for AEW. So I'm going with Collision.
Okay. I was going to go with Collision, but I changed my mind, and I'm going with L.A. Knight. Him absolutely destroying Logan Paul on Monday was enough for me to get that. And now I just found out he beat Rey Mysterio. So now he gets my good for this week.
And you can't teach that. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah? Let me talk to you. What do you got for your bad?
I'm going to go with Jim Ross. I appreciate the fact that JR tried to make his date and you know, be part of the commentary team for Collision. I get it, dude. I really do. I've done a whole bunch of stupid things going to work when I shouldn't have. It ain't worth it. Specifically at your age, you got nothing to prove to anybody. You're not going to call out for no reason. I mean, just seeing that picture of your eye, you fell because you're an old man.
Yep.
Like, stay home. So Jim Ross, this isn't a knock on you as far as like your commitment or what you've done in the wrestling industry, but like, dude, when stuff like that happens, just stay home.
Yep.
And heal. I'm glad that, after the show you realized maybe I shouldn't have come and you have gone home.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you're going to rest up until you get back to where you need to be, which is the important thing. For me, for the bad for this week, I am going with the TNT Championship. If I have to go into any more detail as to why the TNT title gets my bad for this week, then clearly you have not watched anything on AEW over the last year and a half.
Yeah. Look at that. Chris Brown is saying his good is Vince of all people, saving Ciampa from booking hell. Huh.
Interesting.
That's interesting because my brainless goes with Vince and booking Tommaso Ciampa. I thought it was a terrible idea. Like, I understand where they were coming from, having him do a thing with Miz, but if you want to have a guy who, he didn't have enough time to get a large following on the main roster. If you want him to make an impact, to have an imprint on that show that means something, at this point, I have a great respect for The Miz and what he's done for the last almost 20 years. I really do. But winning a match against The Miz ain't getting you too many places these days. Just see Dexter Lumis, Snoop Dogg,
Yep.
Pat McAfee.
Greg the Bunny.
Yeah. So I'm going with that as my brainless. I was not a big fan of that.
I understand where you're coming from, and I do agree. I actually thought Raw was good until I realized that's what they did and screwed everything up. And I really didn't like how it just, like you said, it felt flat when The Miz had his match with Ciampa, and now we know why. But, I mean, all in all, Raw was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it. I really like Finn beating the shit out of him. But my brainless. Look, I've said it before in this podcast, and I'll say it again. I do not need to see Jeff Jarrett on my television anymore in 2023. He is better suited to help Tony Khan out backstage. I could overlook it because, unfortunately, Jeff Jarrett at either 60 or almost 60 is better than 80% of the dudes in AEW. So I'll give him a pass for that. I really don't need to see Sonjay Dutt. I really don't. He brings nothing to this. Jay Lethal's really the only part of that I actually want to see because Jay Lethal can talk and he can actually go in the ring and he's actually entertaining. I don't need to see the stupid giant that they keep calling a giant, and it doesn't really do anything other than just exist. But then you drag Karen Jarrett into this. And I'm like, okay, great. Now we get to see Karen Jarrett. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that it felt like Impact before, bringing Karen Jarrett in, of course, that's definitely not going to make it feel like Impact Wrestling. So you kind of drag poor Mark Briscoe, who's already been through enough this year, and his dad. By the way, his dad's cool as shit. So he's gonna be excused from this whole thing. But why is Ref Aubrey getting dragged into this shit? She's already the worst part about freaking AEW if you don't count the EVPs. I see that she's
or QT Marshall.
What was the second name?
QTV or QT.
Yeah, nobody wants to see any of that. I don't need to see Ref Aubrey. In fact, if she's refereeing the match that's on TV, I turn the channel or just glue my face to my phone. But the fact is, you had her wrestle. And if you've seen her referee, you know that she can't wrestle. She was trying to do moves, and it's watching her and Karen Jarrett's kind of like that terrible match that Charmel was in Impact Wrestling all those years ago. That almost made my list of 10, but it didn't. That was bad. I felt the same way watching Aubrey and Karen Jarrett go at it like I did watching Kenny Omega and the Fuck Doll go at it. I didn't need to see it. I wish I never saw it. And I am very upset with myself because for the rest of my life, I have to live with the fact that I watched Ref Aubrey Edwards, oh nay nay, actually wrestle a wrestling match in 2023.
Mm. All right, so Chris Brown said his bad is Logan Paul being gifted a spot in Money in the Bank without earning it, and Brainless is witnessing Alba Fire losing NXT tag belts to a couple of posers.
Are they going to lose? Did they already lose the tag team titles?
Apparently so.
Is that why we're going to see Ronda Rousey on NXT more now?
I think maybe.
Oh. Well, if you like what you see, whether you are a first-time fan or a continuous follower, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F in March. If you like and follow, subscribe to us. We will do the same back. That has always been our
mantra. And make sure you set up notifications so that when we go live, you will be notified that we are live so you could talk about our favorite sport that we all love to hate. And make sure you get subscribed to us on Spotify so you can take the show on the road with you. So, and I just have to say, last week after I posted the episode on YouTube, it's like our second or third most viewed thing ever, and I didn't mean to write it as clickbait, but apparently I did, and it's all right, whatever.
How many views did it get?
Most of our stuff ranges, and it's not a ton. It's slowly growing, but we got about 200 views in a couple of days. For our YouTube page, that's pretty good. The only thing that's ahead of that right now is your Nia Jax rant.
I was going to say, it can't be better than the Curtis Axel thing. That I got the notification today that the Curtis Axel thing hit 8 million. I said, geez, I got to stop watching Jay's video with Curtis Axel when he hit the 3,000 days.
Well, beyond that, when I did Adam Cole, baby, from the roof in Portsmouth, that still gets a significant amount of stuff. You know what is a constant as far as the YouTube page is you talking about Kevin Patrick as an announcer every day that there are people who watch that.
I have to watch the Kevin Patrick thing. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I usually catch it because I every time I turn on YouTube, it's sad. The first three things that always pop up every time I hit YouTube and I open it, it's one of the most recent videos from Cornette. It's a video from us, and it's some kind of Ron Swanson thing.
Yeah.
That's my life in a nutshell. Also, real quick, what did everybody think about the Looks Like game I introduced on Tuesday?
I liked it. Hey.
And honestly, if there's anybody you want to hear like a Looks Like, or if you can think of it, I do give kudos where kudos is deserved. This was a Dan Levitard with Stugatz and Creation. One of my favorite things on that show. I am always open to suggestions. If you guys want to send people in and want to know who they look like.
I have one right off the top of my head. Bobby Fish.
All right. Bobby Fish will go in next week's thing. You guys want...
Looks like Bobby Fish.
Bobby Fish looks like one of Napoleon's henchmen. Probably because he was.
Mr. McMahon's dastardly team.
Bobby Fish looks like Clark Gable's grandfather.
Yes.
I think that's everything on the show. I think we've touched base on everything. We did some predictions for Forbidden Door. We did our good, bad, and brainless. I think that's a wrap.
Yep. That's a wrap. Nothing else for us to talk about. Nothing at all. Wait, who's that?
For the record, I have actually been on that list more times than Kazarni has, because unlike Kazarni, I am an F and Marks Hall of Famer.
That's very true.
Do you know why I, Curtis Axel, am an F and Marks Hall of Famer?
Why is that brainless one and Curtis Axel?
Brainless one. Wow. Yes, Curtis Axel. Why is that? Oh, yes. He is definitely brainless. Anyway, that's because today, which happens to be June 23rd of 2023, at an astonishing 3,071 days, I, F and Marks Axel, F and Marks Hall of Famer Curtis Axel, is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble.
Brainless one, use your words, man.
If I tripped over any more, I'd probably have a concussion. Woo! Curtis Axel, it's been a minute since the brainless one brainless himself, so unfortunately it came at your expense twice. But for episode
Clubhouse for brainless
for next week. Oh yeah. So for episode 318 of the F and Marks podcast.
I'm Jay. He is.
I just proved what I am. I am the brainless one. Make sure you mark out
with your guac out. See you, everyone, where we will have, enjoy Forbidden Door 2, and we will talk with you to preview Money in the Bank next week, and it will be on Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday morning, likely, so we can preview the dang show, because it's going to be early, because it's going to be in England.
Yeah?
Yeah! All right, brainless one.
Later, Cousin Jay. Yeah?
Yeah!